This is Frances, welcoming you to the 1899th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline, the 11th of April 2013. The readers this week are Elizabeth, Audrey, Malcolm and myself, Frances, with Dave on the controls. The items that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Bouillon, Harry Breur, and performed by Jean-Jacques Perry, and is used with his kind permission. Local stories include Just What the Doctor Ordered, 3 appear in court over shooting of teenager, MPs pay their respects, and former town hall clock ticking on. First of all, the special news items this week are that there will be a drop-in centre at Park Avenue on the 18th of April at 10:30 until 12:30, and there will not be a meeting of Enfield Vision on Monday the 6th of May because it is a bank holiday. If you're experiencing any problems receiving your Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 0208 805 6578. She is your listener's representative and will be pleased to help you. And now Malcolm will read the first item of local news.
Several Enfield GPs charged with handling NHS funds own shares and hold executive positions in private healthcare firms, the Advertiser can reveal. The news has raised fears from opponents of changes to the NHS that doctors could abuse their positions. 5 out of 8 GPs sitting on the governing board for Enfield's Clinical Commissioning Group, that's CCG, the body which is now responsible for commissioning health services, have private healthcare business interests. One of the firms in question is Barndock, which provides out-of-hours GP services in Enfield, Barnet and Haringey. Barndock started out as a GP cooperative before a profit-making arm was set up in 2007. The firm's contract to run out-of-hours GP services in the 3 boroughs was renewed by the CCG just last week. Dr. Alpesh Patel, chairman of Enfield CCG, owns shares in Barndock and is director of Equity Health Limited Liability Partnership, a primary care provider. He also holds shares in Medicare Medical Services LLP, a joint venture between Equity Health and HWH Group Limited, the holding company of Harmony HS Limited. The firm is a major primary care business which started as a GP cooperative but is now owned by Care UK. Medicare was awarded a 5-year contract to run the Evergreen Primary Care Centre in Smythe Close, Edmonton in March 2009. The links between the commissioning group and these companies have raised fears of conflicts of interest when it comes to handing out contracts, a task charged to members of the CCG. The other 4 members of the CCG with shares in private healthcare firms are Dr. Mike Gockman, Dr. Ujjal Sarkar, Dr. Anshu Bhagat, and Dr. Mo Abedi. Dr. Ron Singer, who retired in 2009 as a GP after 28 years in Edmonton, and who is currently president of the Medical Practitioners Union, part of Unite, told the Advertiser, "The new CCG system is problematic because a lot of GPs with interests in private companies are instrumental in awarding new primary care contracts. Although they're not allowed to vote on decisions if they have an interest in the provider in question, they can take part in the discussions. The new system is open to corruption. There's no doubt about that whatsoever." A spokesman for Enfield CCG said, "Members of the governing body are required to declare at the start of each meeting any conflict of interest which may exist in relation to any of the business to be considered. Both the chief officer and the board secretary will advise the CCG chair on how business should be conducted in the event of a conflict of interest."
3 young men have been charged with the murder of a teenager shot in the chest in Edmonton last week. Mohammed Hussain, 19, of Enfield, died in the shooting in Bouncers Road at approximately 9:45 on Monday, April the 1st. Police were called to the scene near Walbrook House to reports of shots being fired, and the 19-year-old was pronounced dead at the scene. A post-mortem at Haringey Mortuary the following day showed he died from a single shotgun wound to the chest. Police launched a murder investigation that day. Natil Nefse, 20, of Park Road in Bowes Park, was arrested on suspicion of the murder last Wednesday, and Christopher Alamu, 18, of Foxglove Close in Edmonton, was arrested last Thursday night. Both were held in custody at East London police stations and appeared at the Old Bailey yesterday. Neither applied for bail, and both are due to reappear at the court on July the 17th. A 16-year-old boy from Hackney, who cannot be named due to his age, has also been charged with the murder and appeared at Highbury Corner Youth Court on Monday. In the aftermath of the shooting, a minister who has spent decades fighting gun and knife crime said more needed to be done to tackle youth violence. Pastor Pat Agamir trains young soldiers to visit schools and youth centres with an anti-violence message as part of the Edmonton-based Glory of the Cross ministry. He said, "When people are killed like this, the community suffers. Schools suffer, mum suffers, uncle suffers. It's a scar that never really heals, especially when it comes to shooting." The pastor, who has focused on helping young people in Enfield get away from violence for the past 30 years, believes the government should do more to educate people about the dangers of gun and knife crime, as well as pay for more youth clubs and grassroots activities. Politicians, he claims, often have no idea what's going on and live in a little circle unconnected to the realities of deprived areas at breaking point.
All three of the borough's MPs have paid tribute to former Prime Minister and Finchley MP Baroness Thatcher, who died on Monday morning at the age of 87 after suffering a stroke. Despite their divergent political opinions, the trio, two Conservative and one Labour, credited Mrs Thatcher, who was Prime Minister from 1979 to 1990, with playing a key role in their early political careers. Nick Dubois, Tory MP for the Enfield North, spoke of his gratitude to Britain's first female Prime Minister. One of her biggest achievements was that she proved it didn't matter where you came from, it was where you wanted to go, he said. She proved you didn't have to be born with a silver spoon in your mouth to get on. I came from a straightforward background. My dad was in the RAF, added the former businessman. She liberated the economy. The consequences of that was I suddenly had a chance of being able to borrow some money and start my own business. And in that same sense, she turned political theory into reality for me. His Conservative colleague, David Burrows, told the Advertiser that the formidable leader had had a huge impact on his life. The MP for Enfield Southgate said, "She inspired me to get into politics as a student. As a conviction politician, she stood up for what she believed, as she said in her last speech in the Commons, to give back control to people over their own lives and over their livelihood." Margaret Thatcher held the torch of freedom both at home and abroad. She will be missed, but her influence and example will never be forgotten. Margaret Thatcher was a great Prime Minister and one of the best politicians of the 20th century. Edmonton Labour MP Andy Love admitted he respected her for her strong views and strength of character, but he added, "I disagreed with everything Margaret Thatcher stood for in politics and believe that her policies did much more harm to the country. Many people suffered as a result of her premiership, especially working people and the poor, and millions lost their jobs and faced years of despair as their communities collapsed around them. The consequences of her policies in Enfield, for example, can still be seen today in the loss of our manufacturing base in the east of the borough. That's something we've never recovered from in the intervening years."
The building it formed part of may have been lost to history, but after almost a quarter of a century in storage, Edmonton's former town hall clock has returned to a place at the heart of a community. The clock originally graced the front of Edmonton Town Hall, but was taken down when the hall was demolished and replaced by an Asda supermarket in 1989. Enfield Borough Council used £35,000 from the Mayor of London's Outer London Fund and the Council's Regeneration Capital Programme to bring the 1903 timepiece back to the borough on the corner of Bridge Street and Fore Street, opposite its original location. The clock was officially unveiled on Thursday, March the 28th by Enfield's Mayor, Councillor Kate Honolulu, and Cabinet Member for Finance and Property, Councillor Andrew Stafford. Councillor Stafford said, "This historic timepiece is very much a part of the borough's history and heritage, and we are delighted it has been returned to its rightful place in Edmonton Green. Many residents remember the old town hall and the clock because they were married in the town hall, and others used the clock to keep time as they went to work or conducted their daily business. It has been an important part of a community for more than 100 years, and the whole of Edmonton Green is pleased that we've managed to return the clock and retain a little of the area's history and heritage for future generations to value." The money paid for the council to find a site for the clock, gain planning permission, build a new structure to support the clock, and install a regulator so it will keep the correct time.
Squatters in an abandoned council building are calling for the authority to stop wasting taxpayers' money and allow them to live there. Up to 15 people from the Occupy movement, including a pregnant woman, moved into the Arness Family Resource Centre, ARC, in Bowes Road more than 2 months ago. Enfield Borough Council is in the process of selling the building to private buyers, and the activists want to remain inside until new owners take over. Pete Phoenix, who was at the forefront of the campaign to reopen Fry and Barnet Library after Barnet Borough Council planned to close it, said, "We are good people, we run community projects and we're taking care of this building. But the council has shown it doesn't want to listen to the people about using these empty buildings. We're calling for some common sense and for the council to let us use the building for the interim period. There's a 4-month pregnant woman here. It just doesn't seem to matter to these people that these are human beings." Enfield Council took the group to court last month in a bid to evict the squatters, but the case was thrown out when its barrister arrived late. Mr. Phoenix claims up to £8,000 of council money was wasted on the court case. He added, "We're trying to say this is our money, taxpayers' money, that is being spent when the council should just be talking to people." Pedro Lima, who is also living in the centre, claimed that claimed that there had been little communication between the council and the squatters following last month's bungled eviction attempt. The 36-year-old, who moved to the UK from Portugal a year ago, believes the group will be able to live in the building for at least another 2 months while the authority tries to evict them. He claimed the council was trying to arrange inspectors to check the building for asbestos in order to try and remove them, so the squatters plan to get their own inspector to look over the building. Although it's difficult to open the property to the public for legal reasons, Mr. Lima said the group was running workshops on social media, yoga and meditation, as well as leading talks. A statement issued to the Enfield Independent last month said the council was following the normal legal process to evict people responsible for breaking in and illegally occupying a property. It said money raised from the sale would pay for vital council services.
Amid the furore surrounding expansion plans, a parent has spoken out in support of controversial proposals to enlarge one of the borough's primary schools. Mother of 2, Gemma Baker of Clive Road, Enfield, has welcomed the decision to add 2 extra forms of entry to reception in Year 1 at George Spicer School in Southbury Road this September. And an extra 2 forms of entry will gradually be added to every year group, doubling the number of pupils at the school from 420 to 840 by 2019. Despite opposition from many residents living close to the school, planning chiefs at Enfield Council approved plans to expand George Spicer at a meeting last month. The decision was made in order to cope with the borough's growing population. Mrs. Baker told the Advertiser, "I do sympathise with the people worried about congestion and noise, but I'm speaking as a mother trying to get her daughter into a local school, and I believe that local schools should be for local children. When I moved here, I thought we'd be fine, but the situation in Enfield with school places has got so bad. Last year, George Spicer only let in a few children who didn't already have siblings at the school. Mrs. Baker added that if plans to build more flats in the area are approved, even more pressure will be placed on already oversubscribed schools. Getting our kids into this school is all us mums talk about, she said. But now that the expansion has been announced, at least we know quite a few children will get in now. Residents had objected to the decision, claiming there will be an increase in congestion and noise.
Hundreds of young people will be employed in a scheme to bring down energy bills in council homes. Enfield Borough Council hopes more than 300 industrial jobs will be created by its new partnership with British Gas, in which up to £10 million will be spent on making more than 1,000 council homes more energy efficient. The first £3 million project is to begin this month at Scott House in Woolmer Road, Edmonton, where 101 flats will be modernised with wall and wood insulation and double glazing. An oil-powered boiler will be switched to gas. Councillor Alan Sitkin, who leads the Sustainability and the Living Environment Scrutiny Panel, has been in negotiations with the energy company for months. The Labour politician said this is the first time it has been done in Enfield. These aren't jobs, they're careers. They are careers in valued professions that will be around for at least 100 years. Councillor Sitkin said the council will contact school leavers in the borough and other young people on its records to encourage them to take up the jobs. Once Scott House is complete, a further 916 council homes across the borough have been earmarked for improvement to start at the end of May. The council hopes people living in homes improved by the scheme will have their energy bills cut by up to £400 per year. British Gas has agreed to pay for the work under its energy company obligation. The Council Cabinet Minister for Housing, Councillor Ahmet Oikina, said, employing local people to help renew Enfield's housing stock makes perfect sense, especially with further employment opportunities as ECO is rolled out across the United Kingdom. During difficult economic times, this is truly a win-win situation. Claire Williams, Managing Director of British Gas New Energy, said, this partnership will bring real local economic benefits, including new jobs and new green skills. It is a great example of business and public sector working together to make people's homes warmer and more energy efficient.
The RNIB is asking people with sight loss to nominate themselves to give away 15 audiobooks each on World Book Night on the 23rd of April. It is entirely up to each individual how they will give away the CDs. It could be to their friends or relatives or to complete strangers in the street. To nominate yourself as a giver, please contact Deb Ryan at RNIB National Library Service on 0161 355 2082 or email wbn@rnib.org.uk, all lowercase, explaining how or where you plan to give the books away. If you don't become a giver, you may be one of the lucky ones receiving an audiobook on World Book Night for free. You can find out more about the wide range of audiobooks available for loan from RNIB National Library Service, either on the internet on www.rnib.org.uk/talking books, with a gap between the talking and books, or call our helpline on 0303 123 9999. Not my helpline, but the RNIB's helpline, obviously.
Two mums from Edmonton are aiming to build self-esteem among children as part of a series of workshops they will be running this weekend. Winnie Nasimbi and Candice Henry will hold the first of the workshops on Sunday in Enfield Road, Edmonton. There will be 2 groups, one for children aged between 5 and 11, and one for youngsters up to the age of 16. Winnie said, "I described the workshops as fun, interactive and varied in the form of activities. It's for young people and children to help them excel. We'll have cooking, dancing and graphic design for the older kids. All of it will help them with their self-esteem and empathy, especially important for the younger children. We'll handle a whole range of the emotional spectrum. We like to get experts in, and we'll have quite a number of good dancers coming in. It's been a passion of mine for a long time, and I've always wanted to work with children." Each 4-hour session, which includes a meal, costs £30, or you can book all 4 for £75. Winnie is hoping Enfield Council will subsidise the workshops so people who are struggling to make ends meet can afford to send their children along. She added, the long-term goal is to go to the council and say, "Hey, these workshops are really great," and be able to be subsidised. We hope in the future we can take trips, whatever helps deliver our message. We're all about fun and variety. We want to help them explore their passions, be strong, and go out there and get their dreams. To sign up for the fortnightly workshops, call 07908 199 573. That's 07908 199 573.
50 people turned up to watch the grand unveiling of a new community mosaic on Saturday. Artist Harry Black spent 6 months creating the dragon mosaic in New Southgate Millennium Green to celebrate the Chinese Year of the Dragon. He used thousands of donated tile fragments to create the colourful image, which park volunteers began bringing to life this year. Children drew back the sheet covering the artwork, while visitors enjoyed a free barbecue and an Easter egg hunt paid for by the Millennium Green Trust. Trust Secretary Andrew Irvine said, "Harry has spent hundreds of volunteer hours making this fantastic new feature, and now he's getting straight on with designing the surrounding landscape. The Trust is now seeking volunteers to help with planting, as well as building a path to spruce up the park, which has been run by volunteers since 1999.
Firefighters pulled an unconscious woman from a smoke-filled house after a blaze was caused by her hair straighteners. Crews had to break in to rescue the woman and resuscitate her before paramedics arrived at the property in Morton Way, Southgate. She had been woken by a smoke alarm and dialed 999 after the straighteners, believed to have been left on overnight, burnt through wooden laminate flooring at about 5 o'clock in the morning last Wednesday. But the householder passed out before 2 fire engines and 14 firefighters from Finchley arrived. Crews broke into the house and found her lying unconscious on the first floor landing before pulling her to safety. She was given CPR by firefighters before the ambulance service arrived and took her to Chase Farm Hospital, where she was admitted for treatment. A loft conversion at the house was badly damaged by the blaze. The fire is the second in North London involving hair straighteners in 1 week. On Thursday, March the 28th, 2 young boys aged 4 and 5 had to be rescued from an upstairs bedroom at a property in Pinner. It is thought a woman at the address left the straighteners on a pile of clothes as she went to answer the door for a pizza delivery. Watch manager at Finchley Fire Station, Tony Keating, said, "You should never leave hair straighteners switched on, and they should always be used cautiously and with great care." The incident also highlights the importance of a working smoke alarm, which sounded, and this helped her save her life.
A cyclist needed reconstructive surgery after being subjected to a horrifying attack as he rode his bike along Hoe Lane in Enfield. The 37-year-old man was punched and kicked to the ground by 3 men shortly after 3:30 p.m. on Thursday, March the 21st. His attackers, all of whom are described as white, left him with injuries so severe that he required extensive reconstructive surgery to his face. The attackers made off with his bike, which was recovered later by a member of the public. Anyone with information is asked to call Detective Constable Stuart Miller on 0208 345 4469 or contact Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111.
The family and friends of a teenager killed in a car crash with two of his friends came together to celebrate his life and raise money for charity. Dozens of people visited Kemp Hall in the Elsinge estate in Bullsmore on Saturday to remember 19-year-old Ashley Jones, who died in November with his friends Harry Ferrand and Jack Boynton, both aged 17. The event raised £1,143 for Hearts Air Ambulance, which tried to save the teenagers in the aftermath of the crash on A10 near Hoddesdon in Cheshunt. Following the public part of the event, friends and family held a party in the hall to celebrate the teenager's 20th birthday, which would have fallen on Wednesday, April the 3rd. The teenager's mother, Viv Fegan, and her sister Naomi helped organise the event and planned to hold another charity day on the anniversary of his death on November the 9th. The former Lee Valley High School student who grew up with Jack and Harry on the Elsinge estate was training to be a bricklayer at Hertford Regional College. Remembering her son, Viv said, "He was a typical teenager, but he had a really dry sense of humour and was very witty. He enjoyed life. He was very sensible too, and on the morning of the accident had applied to be an apprentice electrician. He was my rock. He was always there, and he was always very respectful of me." Family friend Danielle Pryor, who helped organise the event, said it was a brilliant day, with lots of Ashley's friends from the estate and from Canvey Island in Essex, where he lived briefly with his mother before returning to Enfield, showing their respect to the boys.
A gym was severely damaged in a fire in Palmer's Green last week. 7 fire engines were called to shape health and fitness in Green Lanes just before 2:15 a.m. last Wednesday morning to tackle the blaze on the gym's second floor. Police closed Green Lanes for more than 3 hours while firefighters put out the fire. Paramedics were called to the scene at 3:30 a.m. as a precaution, but no one was hurt. Crews were at the scene until 9 a.m.
We have reached the end of side 1 of this tape. Please stop your machine now, take out the cassette, turn it over and start side 2.